Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone who just started to join us. I can see that slowly you're joining the session. So as usual, we'll just wait 1 minute to make sure everyone who registered is here with us before we begin. Hello, Sergio. I can see you finally made it. Okay, so I think we can begin. So we take the most of the time. So welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to see many participants joining us today, again from all around the world. I saw some participants from Canada, USA, Brazil, UK, Greece, Spain, Austria, Turkey, and many other countries. For those who doesn't know me, my name is Adriana Pizzi, GSTC Membership Manager, and I will be your moderator for what I'm sure it will be a very engaging and insightful discussion on the GSTC framework, A Path to Destination Stewardship. We're holding these sessions today and again tomorrow in different time zones to accommodate our diverse audience joining from across all countries. So it would be exactly the same content, just in different days and time zones. And before we dive into today's presentation, I would love to share some very exciting news for us. That our GCC Global Conference is just around the corner, and we're pleased to be hosting this year's conference in the beautiful, sustainable destination in Fiji from August 5th to the 8th of this year. And we're expecting around 500 participants, and the conference will bring together a fantastic mix of people from the public sector representatives to hotels, tour operators, development agencies, academia, and more. And over 4 days, we will dive into a very packed program with pre-conference training, interactive panels, workshops, plenty of networking opportunities, fun social events, and our third academic symposium. And in any case, we have any researchers or academics with us here today. The call for papers is still open until the 31st of May. We have also special discounts for the GTC members, participants from Pacific Island nations and groups. And later on, I will just be sharing the link of the conference so you can have a look at the program, about the academic symposium, and more on. And it would be lovely to see many of you there in person. But for now, let's turn our attentions to today's topic. I'm very pleased to introduce Tiffany Chan, our Destinations Program Manager, who will be our speakers in today's session. Tiffany, as I mentioned, is the Destinations Program Manager at GCC and the Vice Chair of the Destination Stewardship Working Group, where she focuses on sustainable destination governance and best practices in tourism. As an advocate for equitable outdoor recreation, she has mentored women of color in outdoor pursuits and promotes inclusive access and responsible stewardship of natural spaces. Before we begin, just a quick reminder that this session is being recorded and you will be able to access it later on our YouTube channel. And after the presentation, as usual, we'll have time for a Q&A session. So please feel free to submit all the questions that you may have using the Q&A feature that is in the bottom of the Zoom screen or in the chat, and then Tiff will address them after her presentation. So I stop talking now, and Tiff, please go ahead.
Thank you, Adriana. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Tiffany Chan, GSC Destinations Program Manager, and the purpose of this webinar is to really just help you understand the GSTC Destinations Program, our framework, kind of help you understand a path to achieving destination stewardship, and I'll be able to also provide some examples today. So since this is a public webinar, I want to start by introducing GSTC in case you're not familiar. We are an independent and neutral organization legally registered in the USA as a nonprofit organization. GSTC establishes and manages global standards for sustainable travel and tourism, known as the GSTC standard, or if you have been around for a while, the GSTC criteria formally. And we provide international accreditation for sustainable tourism certification bodies. As a global organization, our staff and board members are also spread internationally. We are a very mission-based organization, so I just want to share here our vision of fulfilling its potential, using tourism to fulfill potential as a vehicle for social, cultural, and economic good while removing and avoiding any negative impacts from its activities in terms of environmental and social impacts. And our mission is to be an agent of change in the world of sustainable travel and tourism by fostering and increasing the knowledge, understanding, and adoption and demand for sustainable tourism practices. And the reason why I bring this up is because we are talking about destination stewardship, and that in itself is very holistic. So I just wanted to kind of bring up that mission and that value. So we currently have 4 sets of GSTC standards that have been developed. The first being the GSTC Industry Standard for hotels and tour operators, the GSTC Destination Standard, which we will be discussing today, MICE Standard, Attraction Standard, and we are currently developing criteria for food and beverage service providers in tourism. So when we look at our standards and sustainability as a whole, oftentimes you hear a lot of individuals might equate sustainability to environment, but really when we look at sustainability holistically and at the GSTC standards, there are 4 pillars. So pillar A really focuses on sustainable management. So we're thinking, does the destination have clear policies and systems in place to operate responsibly? Is there a sustainable management or stewardship plan in place? Do they gather and respond to visitor feedback? And so really just looking at signs of long-term commitment, strong leadership group, active community involvement, and risk preparedness. The second pillar, pillar B, is on socioeconomic benefits. So are locals benefiting from tourism? Does the destination support fair wages, create local employment, contribute to community well-being? Are products and services sourced locally? Another thought to consider is, how are residents in your destination perceiving tourism? Do they feel like it has a positive impact on their daily lives? Pillar C, cultural heritage, that really just focuses on local traditions. Are local traditions and historic sites represented and respected and protected? Does the destination safeguard its cultural assets while welcoming visitors? The goal is really just to preserve cultural identity and heritage sites by encouraging respectful visitor behavior and supporting local artisans, storytellers, indigenous communities. So that kind of gives you an overview of pillar C. And last but not least, environment. So environmental stewardship is nature being protected rather than harmed. Are visits to natural sites and wildlife interactions managed to minimize negative impacts? So here we're thinking waste reduction, water conservation, protecting biodiversity, reducing carbon emission. And obviously strong environmental stewardship is essential. And I would also like to mention that since tourism destinations each have their own unique culture and environments, customs, and laws, these standards are designed to be adaptable to local conditions. And so when we talk about applying the GSTC destination standard, they've proven their value to be guides to good destination stewardship. A lot of policymakers and destination managers globally have turned to the standard for guidance. And so here I just wanted to give you a list, and it's not limited to this list, but what are the standards used for? They can help serve as basic guidelines for destinations that wish to be more sustainable, help consumers identify sustainable tourism destinations, help certification and other voluntary destination level programs. It can offer government, non-governmental, private sector programs a starting point for developing their sustainable tourism requirements. And also for training and education and capacity building, it really can help serve as a basic guideline for such training bodies. Before we jump in, as I mentioned, we are a global organization, and so is our membership base. And so just going back to how the framework is used and standards, I just wanted to give you some examples of countries around the world that are using the GSTC framework. At the end of near the end of the webinar, I'll come back to this slide and give you some examples, but I just kind of wanted to give you an idea and a visual of our global reach here. So jumping right in, pathway to destination stewardship. I'm going to start by really framing what is destination stewardship. So this is our description, where destination stewardship is a process by where local communities, government agencies, NGOs, the tourism industry take a multi-stakeholder approach to maintaining the cultural, environmental, economic, and aesthetic integrity of their country, region, or town. So in other words, it's really to ensure that the destination retains and enhances the distinctive attributes that appeal not only to tourists, but to residents as well. And so this is really the core of our webinar today, the Destination Stewardship Starter Kit. This was developed by the Destination Stewardship Working Group as a way to support destinations in their transition towards destination stewardship. What we really wanted to do was develop a guideline offering steps for the destination to just really have an overview and understand where they're at in their destination stewardship journey, what more they could be doing. So it really just helps destinations, no matter where you are. I think it can help as a reminder, but it's especially useful for those who are kind of starting out that destination stewardship journey or transition. It's available on our website. It's completely free, open to the public. You don't need to be a member to access this starter kit. And besides English, we've also translated it into French, Spanish, Greek, and German. So as I mentioned, the aim of the starter kit is really to provide a set of initial steps. However, I think it's also important to acknowledge that this process, it's distinctive to each destination. As you know, destinations are very unique. Yours might be different than your neighbor. And so that starting point might be completely different based on your specific needs and your circumstances. And that being said, it's not mandatory to follow this in any specific sequence, but for the sake of this webinar, I will follow, for lack of a better word, the steps in sequential order, just so we have some order in this webinar. But when you're using the starter kit, it is completely okay to jump around or to start from a different step. So the first item we'll talk about is really building a team and identifying a leader or leaders. So just start by getting 1 or 2 people involved. I think it's really important to recognize, and we all know that sustainability is a journey, and that starting any sort of sustainability program or initiative can be tough. So you'll need someone to take the lead, someone who's really committed to making it work, or multiple individuals. But once you've found that person or small group, you can really start to put together a plan or a planning team. And I would just say, look for individuals who are really passionate about sustainable tourism and who believe in having a long-term vision. So some key points that we mentioned in the starter kit is that the team should consist of a small group who have really clear roles and responsibilities. And we also recommend that the team is organized in a way that allows for continuity. So, for example, if some members were to leave and be replaced by others, that the project can still, or the initiative can still continue. Next, we'll talk about identifying key stakeholders. So you can start by identifying potential stakeholders and partners in your destination, and this can include anyone from local government officials, tourism boards, hospitality businesses, community leaders, basically anyone that you can think of that would be key in helping shape and carry out these sustainable tourism efforts. Look for partnership opportunities that can really help make a difference. Also keep in mind that this diagram that you see here, it's not a full list, but just some ideas to get you started. Every destination is different. You might have some partnerships already established. It's really important, I think, to also do some sort of stakeholder mapping activity to identify who should be involved. And then once you have that clearer picture, you can set up a committee that brings together voices from both the public sector, private sector, NGOs, the community. But one thing I will mention is I think it's really important to include marginalized groups as well. So those who might not usually be included in the planning process, but are deeply affected by the outcomes. And that will obviously vary by destination. And also just remember that a lot of sustainability work is likely already happening outside of the tourism sector. So get to know who's doing what in your destination, how you can align efforts, and just look for that bigger impact of collaboration. Next, we'll talk about defining your destination's sustainability objectives, goals, and overall vision. So this might start with creating a mission statement and figuring out your top priorities. So what are the opportunities? What needs to be improved? To take a really well-rounded approach, it's important to have long-term vision and commitment. It's a good idea to bring together key individuals from different parts of your organization to help brainstorm. So internally, having a nice mix of individuals, and then also talk about what you want to achieve and make sure it's aligned with your organization's bigger goals, and just have everyone on the same page. Once everyone's on the same page, you'll be in a much better place to move forward. From there, we recommend setting some SMART goals. So that means goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And to get a clearer picture of where to focus your efforts, run a SWOT analysis. That will help identify your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It can also help to identify objectives that are quick victories, or like we like to say, low-hanging fruit. Just ways to show the local community and stakeholders that progress is being made. And on that same note, it's incredibly important to involve the local community and engage in your stakeholders. So raising awareness in the wider community just allows everyone to feel involved and part of that process, and really get buy-in. So when you include local residents and stakeholders, it just helps build that sense of shared responsibility. And when people feel ownership over the destination's future or sustainability initiatives, there's a much better chance at reaching those goals. Something you can do is gauge how residents feel about tourism to begin with in the community through surveys or public forums. You can also engage with a diversity of stakeholders and just include specific key players who can bring value, like we said in some of the other slides. So one example I have here, as you can see the photo on the right, it's Visit Park City's Resident Sentiment Situation Assessment. We conducted a destination assessment for Park City, and part of the destination's planning process, they also conducted a situation assessment on resident sentiment. The report is available on Park City's website, but I think this is something that is just useful to really understand how your community feels. And just going back to that point, community buy-in, it just really ensures that the local residents and stakeholders are not only aware of the scope, but invested and have this shared sense of responsibility. So once you've set up your goals, the next step or something you could do here is to build a clear strategy and action plan. Lay out the specific steps you'll need to take to reach each goal. And I would say don't just think short term. Make sure you're thinking medium and long term as well. It really helps to create a timeline so you can track your progress. At first, we would say keep it manageable, just a few years to start. But a really key point that I want to bring up here is to make sure that you have enough funding lined up, not just for one project, but to support these ongoing initiatives and projects and the long-term goals that you've established. Especially once you've started to build momentum and everyone's invested and you have the team in place, it would be a shame to not have the funding to continue. It's also really important to clearly define these activities and set a budget and show there's just a really big commitment behind the plan. This could mean having your leaders step up and publicly back the strategy and the work ahead. Some other key points here, just focus on prioritizing activities that are achievable and have a greater impact. Something you can do is to store ideas that can be revisited in the future. So just because they're not attainable in the present doesn't mean they aren't feasible later on in the future when you perhaps have more funding or have a bigger team in place. And lastly here, just consider partnerships. It can help keep costs low during those initial stages and just really, really help you get started. So next in the starter kit, we talk about education and training. So start by offering training and workshops for your internal staff so they understand both the policies and the practical side of sustainable tourism. At the same time, you can give clear guidance and encouragement. Encouragement always helps as well to your stakeholders and tourism businesses. And just like I said earlier, having everyone on the same page. But I think it's important to make this education and training piece a priority, not just for those internally or working in tourism, but perhaps available for residents and visitors as well. For example, you could share a sustainability code of conduct on your website to help guide that visitor tourist behavior. But one of the first, and I would say really most important step is raising awareness, especially as you're starting out. So making sure your key leaders and your stakeholders just really understand the basic concepts of sustainable tourism and where your destination currently stands. And just providing ongoing learning opportunities for local businesses. For example, webinars, in-person workshops are really great, but it just allows this sort of continuous learning and improving practices over time. And also look for ways to learn from others. If there's a destination or an organization already doing this, I would say study what they're doing, look at their results, and that can also really help give some ideas as well. And finally, if you can deepen your own understanding through formal training, something like the GSTC Sustainable Tourism course, it's a great place to start. So here I'm just going to show you, besides the Sustainable Tourism course, we also offer several other training courses as part of our program. We can arrange private courses for organizations, both on-site and online, or have public courses that bring together tourism stakeholders from all over the world. And it's just a really good opportunity to learn from each other, to learn some other sustainability practices that others are pursuing within their organization. And it's a really great networking opportunity as well. And so all these courses you'll be able to find on our website in more detail as well. Since this is a webinar focused on destination stewardship, I would like to introduce our Destination Stewardship Self-Study course. This is not yet available. It will be launched within the next month or two. Oh, sorry, I haven't updated this. The photo there is incorrect. It is the Sustainable Destination course, but it's a on-demand, self-paced online course, provides sustainability strategies, solutions, and best practices for destination management. So next we'll talk about communicating progress. So first, I would say it's important to develop a clear plan to raise awareness about what you're doing. We discussed this a little bit earlier, but this means not just promoting your initiatives, but also documenting that process so information is easy to access and understand. It's also valuable to regularly communicate your progress and successes internally and externally. So that just helps, that ongoing engagement helps build trust, creates transparency, and helps maintain momentum as you work towards continuous improvement. So some key tips here we included just creating a staff toolkit, something that supports training and helps your teams communicate consistently. I think that's a really key word here, consistent and confidently about sustainability goals and progress. I also do want to mention that terminology is really important. So using really clear and consistent terms and definitions across the organization ensures everyone's aligned and also equipped with the right language and messaging. And if you ever need help with that, there are several different glossaries available online within the tourism sector. The GSTC, we have one on our website, the Sustainable Tourism Glossary, that you can refer to and can look up definitions there as well. And so here, we've been kind of building up to this on the last few slides, but just to ensure that your sustainability initiatives are effective, you'll want to continuously measure and monitor. So what gets tracked gets accomplished, hopefully. It's really effective to establish a baseline by first identifying your current sustainability performance and then creating a monitoring tool to track future impacts and results. So align your actions with your goals, examine your learnings and experiences, review, modify, and adapt your plan as necessary. And then once again, come back to sharing your progress with stakeholders to inform them on planning and development. And just alternating between this communicating your progress and measuring to ensure consistent monitoring and communication. And then you can always make adjustments based on feedback and adjust your plan on a continuous basis. So to help establish that baseline, something you can do is a self-assessment. This process involves reviewing, evaluating the sustainability practices of your destination against the GSTC destination standard. This includes performance indicators designed to provide guidance in measuring compliance with the standard. And this will just help you better understand your sustainability performance. It will help you identify areas for improvement. It can help develop action plans to enhance sustainability practices, demonstrate your commitment to sustainable tourism practices. And if you are looking at certification, not all destinations are, and it can really help you work towards that. So a few months ago, we soft launched our GSTC Destination Self-Assessment Tool. This is once again available on our website, open to the public. You don't have to be a member, and it's free of charge. And to get started, you first create an account and you log in. Once you create an account, it will prompt you for some information, basic information like your name, email, organization, your role, but just also a little bit of information about your destination as well. So we really wanted to make this tool as user-friendly and easy to understand as possible. When you go into each section, so it's divided by 4 sections according to the 4 pillars. You'll find an introduction page that provides insight into each section. As you continue on and you start doing this assessment, this self-assessment, we broke down each of the standard into several components for the user to answer using simply yes, no, or in progress. And it's a little bit small here, but on the very top next to the standard, there's a red circle with an eye. That icon, when you click on there, and it'll also pop up when you first open it, will give you information on the standard that you are currently answering questions to. And so it just really helps understand, the standard that you're working on and that you're looking at. And as you answer yes, no, or in progress, you click the icons and it will take you automatically to the next standard or to the next section. And so once you're complete each section, so each of the 4 sections, you'll receive an analysis on how well you've done. And this is a completion. So we're not scoring you on exactly how the quality of each standard, but we're just really looking at completion here. So this is all based on your own answers that you've given. So this is just the example for pillar A, but like I said, it's not a calculated score. It's just a percentage of completion based on your answers of yes, no, and in progress. And then taking you back to the dashboard, this is what you'll see at the beginning. As you answer all your questions for each of the 4 pillars, the 4 sections, you will end up with this completion percentage score. And so I just wanted to give an overview of the dashboard. But like I said, we wanted to keep it really simple and make it as user-friendly as possible. So something else that you can do that we offer is a destination assessment. This is a little bit more in depth. It's usually for most destinations a 6 to 9 month process, but basically we have lead assessors that come to your destination and conduct a more formal destination assessment, but it's really the same thing, a tool to identify risk areas, opportunities when you're applying the destination standard. It's not certification. As an accreditation body, we do not certify any organizations or products, but we accredit those certification bodies that do. And here are some examples of assessments that we've done recently in the past in the city of Kotor, Tahiti in French Polynesia, Petra in Jordan, and Dubrovnik in Croatia. So to date, we've completed 51 assessments globally, and we have 2 in progress. So kind of going back to adhering to this GSTC standard, there are 38 standards within the destination standard, 174 indicators. It can be very overwhelming, particularly for those who are starting or at the beginning of the journey and kind of starting from step 1. So what we like to say is start by just choosing 5 to 10 key standards to examine. So build this up slowly, focus on key areas such as sustainable management and governance. And something you can do that is really useful is just learn from other destinations who have gone through a similar process. I'll share a resource that the Destination Stewardship Starter Kit would be helpful for that. Also, within GSTC as a member, when you attend our conferences or any of our workshops or events, there's a lot of networking and opportunity to meet others who have gone through or might be going through where you're at in your destination. So also just doing your own research and looking online, talking to neighboring destinations. There's a lot that can be learned from others through networking and collaboration. And so like I said, there's 38 standards, 174 indicators, and while all of them are important and interconnected, one that we really like to focus on is Section A, Sustainable Management, and it's really the foundation for taking a holistic approach to destination stewardship. One of the key parts of this section, I would say, is Standard A1, which highlights the importance of having a highly inclusive planning group. So this means including voices from across all levels of government, what we call whole government approach, as well as having these ongoing, meaningful engagement with stakeholders from the local community and the tourism sector. What's important to note is that A1 doesn't dictate a specific structure for this group, and so it doesn't have to be a formal department or an official DMO. It could be a council, a committee, or another kind of collaborative group. What matters is that it includes permanent residents, diverse stakeholders, and strong representation from the DMO, even if it's not led by them. And this group should also prioritize community involvement, just ensuring, like I said earlier, that local voices are part of that decision making and that tourism development really reflects the need and the values of the destination. So a question to consider is, what does this look like in your destination? Do you have a structure in place that reflects these principles? And if not, what steps can you take to move in that direction? So, like I said, we really take care not to prescribe the structure of a council, but I just want to provide some ideas of what an ideal governing body would look like based on this A1 standard. So, just being able to meet the five GSTC A1 indicators within the standard, incorporate representation for all destination assets, mixed membership of public sector, private sector, and civil society, having strong capacity for visitor and destination management, adopt mission and goals that balance sustainability, authenticity, economic development, and responsible promotion, conduct activities that help local communities to discover and value their own unique cultural and natural characteristics, function with a degree of regularity, and withstand changes of government. So going back to that original slide that I shared before we got into the starter kit, I really just wanted to show some examples of how members have implemented the GSTC framework at the national level. So looking here, we see the Bahamas. The Bahamas partnered with GSTC to provide structural support and training to help them establish destination stewardship councils on their family islands. And so far, 6 of the Bahamas family islands have destination stewardship councils. Another one here, Japan, the GSTC destination standard, it was adopted as policy and they created a national set of guidelines called the Japan Sustainable Tourism Standard for Destinations, JSTSD. They also sponsored several trainings in many different locations around Japan for destination managers and industry stakeholders. So just really focusing on that education, training, capacity building piece. Another one on here, Mauritius. Mauritius has a voluntary program for hotels and tour operators to achieve certification through their national GSTC accredited certification body. One I don't have Turkey on here. If you've been around GSTC for a while, you'll know the Turkey program, but it's a mandatory national program for certification of hotels, broken down into 3 stages. So the first stage, a third of GSTC standard must be achieved by the end of 2023. Second stage, 2/3 by 2025, and 100% fully certified by 2030. On that same front, talking about hotels, Singapore is certified as a destination and Sentosa Island as well. And they've subsidized hotel certification and also hotel staff training. The Singapore Sustainability Roadmap was launched a few years ago in 2022. for 60% of room stock to achieve certification by 2025 and net zero by 2050. So this just gives, I'll stop here. I don't want to get into too many examples, just want to give you a chance for Q&A after, but this just gives you a few ideas of how other destinations have used the framework and implemented the standards at a national level. So I think I mentioned additional resources a bit earlier, but something that is really near and dear to my heart is the Destination Stewardship Report. This is an ongoing partnership with CREST, the Center for Responsible Travel, the Destination Stewardship Center, founded and run by Jonathan Torlow and a group of volunteers, and us at the GSTC. We release 3 publications per year, highlighting practical insights and lessons learned from destinations all around the world. We then compile all these stories from that year, and we create what we call the Destination Stewardship Yearbook. As you can see here, the photo on the right, the yearbook is also available on our website, and it's just a really good wealth of resources if you're looking at what other destinations are doing. There's lots of really great examples covering different topics, challenges that destinations face and overcome, looking at all different realms of the sector. So yeah, it's always good to learn from others, and we are always looking for more case studies and more stories to feature. So if you do have an idea, if you feel like your destination has a story to share, or you know of another destination, please feel free to reach out to us. I would be happy to connect and have your story included in our report and our yearbook. And last but not least, I think many destinations want to be certified. And while this is a great achievement, I would say the management teams at these destinations understand that sustainability is a journey and that the work to implement the GSTC standards, it's never complete. If you are curious, we do have a guide on how to become a certified destination on our website. And as I mentioned, we don't certify, but we accredit certification bodies that do. There are currently 3 accredited certification bodies: Vireo, Green Destinations, and EarthCheck, and you can contact them directly for more information. And lastly, if you're curious, you can view destinations that have been certified by a GSTC accredited certification body. This is also available on our website. You can see the GSTC destinations map, and that will show you all the certified destinations by certification body. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll hand it over to Adriana for our Q&A.
No, thank you so much, T, for this very insightful and powerful reminder that sustainability is not just a checklist, it's more of a mindset shift, and that the stewardship is about shared responsibility also. Just for you to know, I share all the different links that you mentioned about how to become a certified destination, the stewardship report, the destination self-assessment tool. So for participants to know, I shared all the links in the chat, so you can just have a quick look at it. So now let's get into the Q&A session. So I could see that there's some questions already posted, but if you have more, please remember that you can write them in the Q&A box or in the chat, or raise your hand. I will mute you and you can just ask your question directly to Tiff. So Tiff, if you want, you can stop sharing your screen so we feel a little bit closer to everyone here. And I have one first question here for you that some organizations, they don't know much. And what are some of the most common ways GSTC supports destination directly? Does GCC offer on-ground guidance, technical advice, or mentorship throughout the stewardship process? Can you explain us a little bit more how GCC supports, besides all that you mentioned?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the starter kit is a great starting point, but for organizations that might not be familiar with GSTC or with sustainability or destination stewardship and just looking for that starting point, I would say that we mentioned a lot of the resources already, but our website is a wealth of resources, not only for destinations, but for industries and other tourism businesses. So I think a good starting point would just be looking at all the resources provided. For a lot of destinations, I think that training and capacity building and that education piece is really big. And so just having even what's happened, I would say, in the past with a lot of destinations is just having one or two individuals, kind of key players within the organization, take the sustainable tourism course, our flagship course, because that covers not only destination but industry. So looking at hotels and tour operators. And so those two individuals will really gain insight into not only sustainable tourism, but also different practices, how to implement those practices, and just really practical examples and case studies. And then they could take that back to their organization and provide mentorship or training, or be involved in creating that staff toolkit or internal communication or external communication to your stakeholders, tourism businesses and hotels and others within your community. So I think that's something that has been done and seems to go well in the past with other organizations. So training, capacity building is a big piece. Using our resources. A lot of organizations just jump in and join us as a member, and becoming a member, you have access to more resources. This webinar is public, but you then have access to several, all of our past webinars and discounts on training, and also our conferences, and just that opportunity to network with a global community and global network of practitioners and others, experts within that tourism sector, I think is beneficial. So yeah, apart from that, we offer destination assessments, and we can do workshops and things like that. But for organizations that are starting out, or just, getting into it, or looking at step one, I think just becoming familiar with the resources, the standards, perhaps joining as a member, and just really looking at how you could educate not only yourself, but those within your organization.
And regarding the not the destination assessment, can you walk us briefly, of course, what happens during a destination assessment? Who is involved? What kind of outputs or reports are delivered?
Sure. Yeah, so I mentioned destination assessment. It takes about, for most destinations, it takes 6 to 9 months, but it completely depends on the scope, geographic scope, and several other factors of your destination. But what usually happens is we will first join for a meeting, really get to understand the scope of your destination. We bring on a lead assessor. These are experts and practitioners with many decades of experience. And we start with a desktop analysis, so a desktop assessment. And in that process, we do document mapping and stakeholder mapping. And so we always work with a team at the destination. And so there's usually at least one or two, sometimes a group of individuals at that destination that are overlooking this assessment. And they'll provide us with all the documents within the document mapping exercise and stakeholders. And through that exercise, we'll really hone in and really understand, okay, like, we have this information, we can see clearly based on what's provided, these specific standards we can really get a good idea of, but perhaps we're missing we're missing data or information for certain standards, we really need to talk to these stakeholders or those who are overlooking these areas while we're at the destination for the on-site visit. And so we then will arrange a schedule with the destination and do an on-site visit. So this can often be 2 to 3 days. If it's a larger destination, it might be 5 to 7 days. It completely ranges, but we generally then will do a on-site visit and really try to fill the missing gaps, really get a good idea of the destination, visit several different sites while we're there, talk to different stakeholders, host a lot of stakeholder meetings. And then from that, the lead assessor will go back and go through all the documents and everything we gathered from the on-site assessment and start preparing a report. And so we'll complete the assessment and we'll give a score to show the destination. These are the areas we've identified that are at risk. These are the areas that you're doing well. And I'd also like to mention that it's because we are an accreditation body, we don't do any sort of consulting. And so we don't act as consultants, and it's a very clear cut of this is what you're doing. And this is what you're doing. This is where you're doing well. This is where you're not. We don't provide any feedback or advice or follow up on what you should be doing, because that is the job of a consultant. So I just really wanted to make that clear. And then when we're done, we provide the destination with a final report. And so that is the process generally, and it completely varies on the destination. The steps don't change, but the timing and how long it takes and the process in between can often vary depending on what information we receive and can gather.
Thank you. Here I think it needs some clarification. So Dali is asking in reference to the DMOs adopting the GSTC framework. Is this the same as the GSTC criteria, now standard, or is it something else? Since GSTC does not certify destinations or businesses directly, how do you keep track of who's adopting the framework? Is it available publicly? So maybe to explain a little bit, what do we mean with GSTC framework and the difference of GSTC criteria, now GSTC standard?
So the standard, so everything we do is based on the standard. So when we say framework, because we work with destinations at various levels, so the examples that I showed were at the national level, but when we say framework, it could mean like very many different things. And so it's how you adopt the GSTC destination standard. And so some of even the examples at the national level, some are using it only specifically for training and capacity building. Some have adopted the standard into their policy to then develop their destination management plan or their stewardship plan, while others at the national level have created a certification body. And so there's not, because destinations are all so unique and different in their own way, there's no one framework to follow, if that makes sense. It's not prescribed in the sense that this is the way to do it, but it's kind of this overarching path, several different pathways available within our destinations program that's available to each destination. I hope my explanation made sense there. But yeah, and so the standard, everything is based on the standard. Some destinations like to go for certification and might do a destination assessment, some might not, some might do training, some might not. And so it completely varies on how that destination decides to take their pathway and adopt the GSTC standard into their sustainability journey.
Next question coming here from Indonesia. What are some of the common challenges destinations face when transitioning from the traditional tourism management to a stewardship approach under the GSTC framework, and how can they be supported through that process?
Oh, that's a tough one. It completely varies from destination to destination, but I would say through my personal conversations with destinations that have transitioned to a stewardship approach, the first thing that pops into mind oftentimes is not inadequacy, but like not knowing what to do next and not having that community buy-in, that common language. And so perhaps the DMO everyone internally is on board, they know what they're doing, and they know they want to transition to a stewardship approach, but then you have others, perhaps residents or others within the tourism industry that might not fully be on board. They might have their own agenda. They might have a different idea of what sustainability means. So I think having that fragmented, different idea of what is sustainability, what are we all working towards, what are our common goals. I think having everyone on board, everyone on the same page, all your stakeholders, that stakeholder buy-in, that community buy-in, and just ensuring that you're all moving together towards that common goal. That's something that has been brought up before and has been a frustration. So I think in the past, what's been brought up is, starting internally, having that staff guideline or that staff internal toolkit, and then being able to communicate that externally and show your progress and just show, like I said earlier, that low-hanging fruit of successes, and just show the community what you're doing and just really involve them in that decision making and involve the residents and really understand where they're at and why they feel that way. Maybe they don't care, maybe they actually care about sustainability, but they don't really understand what that means and how it impacts them. So I think just taking a step back and doing it very holistically and ensuring that there is buy-in and everyone feels like it's impacting them in a positive way, I think is a way to look at it.
Thanks. I think we have time for one last question, and here there's two that actually they're asking similar things. So do GCC have a document with lessons learned and recommendations for small island destinations? Which small island destinations have been certified with a GCC standard?
We don't have an exact document, but I would say that I would suggest going through the Destination Stewardship Report. The report we have, this is our 5th yearbook, so 5 years. In the first 3 years, we published 4 reports per year, so we have quite a few reports out there. I don't have a list off the top of my head, but there are many in there. If you want to know more, feel free to email me and I'll be able to kind of help you extract and also pull from our conferences. In our conferences, a lot of our sessions are also recorded. And so oftentimes when there's a specific question to a specific type of destination, I can pull resources for you. But right now, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything in particular, but I'll be able to pull that for you if you want specific resources.
And then regarding which destinations has been certified, I just shared the link where you can find all the different destinations. But now quickly to my mind, I can think of Madeira, Azores, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's the island that right now it comes to my mind that has been certified as a destination. But I shared the link, so you Mustafa and Alfred, you can just have a better look. And also, which is many of the sessions that we'll have in Fiji will be focused in small or island destinations, since of course Fiji is one of them. So also there would be a very rich content in this topic, and all the sessions will be recorded, so you can watch it after the conference in case you cannot be there with us. So I believe this takes us to the end of the webinar. Quick reminder that it has been recorded and you can find it later on, the recording, in our YouTube channel, so you can share it with your colleagues or network. And before we say goodbye, a big thank you to you, Tiff, because for those who didn't know, she was kind of very sick the last days, but she made a huge effort to be here with us, so to don't cancel this webinar. So thank you, Tiff, for this big effort and sharing all this knowledge with us. And also thank you to all the participants for making a priority to attend to this webinar. I hope you found it very enriching. So wishing you all a very beautiful day, morning or evening, wherever you are. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Adriana.
Bye-bye.